Hey everybody, it's Joel Irway and welcome to my daily video blog. We're on day 17 of how to launch a 6 and 7 figure product from scratch, and I am pumped today. Today's Friday, February 10th, and a couple of really cool things are happening in the works. And you ever get one of those days where you just kind of have like that aha moment, like a huge light bulb goes off and you just get so excited because you know it's going to be like a major impact with whatever you're doing in your products or your projects or whatever you're working on? Well, I just had that aha moment, and I got so excited this morning when I thought about it. So last night I had a webinar to a partners list, Curtis, and it went off really, really well. It was still a small audience. I didn't make any sales, but it was the first time that I was able to test my new message to my audience, and I was really happy with how it went. Like I liked how the flow went. I liked the message. I thought it connected. Unfortunately, didn't make any sales, but that's kind of like a moot point. But today I was thinking about it, and I keep thinking about like how can I get my message out to more people more frequently and more often. And so over the past 2 years, I've been working with people in the webinar space, and we were using live webinars, weekly live webinars, to promote their products and their courses and their services. And so whenever somebody comes to me with like a course, I've got a $500 course or a $1,000 course or a $2,000 course, whatever it is, they come to me like, hey, I want to do a webinar. I'm like, okay, well, we need to do it live because we need to test it with the audience. And so we'll do it live a few times, and as it continues to go, like the list, like you promote it to cold traffic, right? And so you start to generate leads from this list, and so the list will build and build and build, and every week you do a live webinar. Well, like whenever we would, how do I explain this, right? So we would have success with promoting it to the cold traffic, right? But it's like, it's not the type of success that we want for the long term. Like everybody wants to go automated. And it's like, you can go automated, but you can't go automated right off the bat. And I was talking to a couple people yesterday, and I sent a message out in my Experts Unleashed group because I always want to learn about why people aren't doing webinars. And so I shot a message out into my Facebook group, and somebody responded, and this is what led the light bulb to really go off for me. So I asked, like, what was the biggest thing that was holding people back from doing a webinar for their product or service? And this guy, I can't remember what his name was. I think his name was Chris. He messaged me, and he goes, the reason why I haven't been doing webinars for my products and services is that I have this fear that people aren't going to show up, or if they do show up, they're going to leave. And if they do show up, then they're not going to buy my product. And so he got very real with me, which was great because I commend his transparency. But as a business owner, like that's the type of data that I was looking for. And it's like, well, these people who aren't really doing webinars, they're scared to do them live because they're scared of that feedback from the audience. And so I was thinking about what was happening over the past couple of months with my clients, and we were doing weekly live webinars, and some people are crushing it. Lots of people are crushing it. And when we get the best results are when we start to build this list and kind of get this list to like a decent size. So when they join the webinar the first time, maybe they don't buy the first time, but every week we re-invite them to next week's webinar, even if it's the same content. And whenever we re-invite them to the next webinar, our sales go up and our sales go up. And it's like this snowball effect because you now have a warmer list of people that you're promoting it to that webinar. Because when you do a live webinar, you get like 20 to 30% of the people who register will actually show up. So as you start to re-invite these people to come back and attend and watch the webinar again, sometimes these people, like they need to watch it more than one time before they're sold on making that investment and sold on that transformation that you're offering them. And so I'm like, well, why don't we focus our efforts on doing live webinars to our existing list and let the cold traffic just look at the auto webinar? Back in the day, like there's this weird methodology that I've always succumbed to, that we have to have this like launch sequence whenever we do a webinar, meaning we do a webinar and we promote it to our audience and we get cold traffic and they register and then they attend, and then for 3 or 4 days after we do a countdown sequence, right? It's like, okay, day 1 after the webinar, we remove this bonus. Day 2, we remove this bonus. Day 3, we remove this bonus. And then, okay, boom, cart's closed. And it's like, when we do that, we limit ourselves to exposing our message to more people. And so I'm like, well, what if we just eliminate the cart close sequence? What if we run an auto webinar to cold traffic? We build that list, right? And so people now, if we run the webinar at the top of the hour, more people are seeing the message, and regardless of whether or not they buy, somebody who joins your list as a webinar registrant is drastically more valuable because they're interested in content and they've watched your webinar and they've built a relationship with you, regardless if it's live or not. So I want to continuously build that list of leads from that auto webinar. And then once a week or once every other week, I'll do a special live training to my existing list, which will always be higher performing because now they're on my list. They start to know me. They start to trust me a little bit more, and they like my content. They like what I'm talking about. So they'll be more likely to show up to any live events that I've got. And I'm not putting all my eggs in the cold traffic basket, which if you've ever done cold traffic, it can be hit or miss sometimes. It can be really frustrating. So this light bulb went off. I'm like, why don't I do that for my own stuff? Like, why don't I eliminate the cart close sequence? So when I do an auto webinar, I present the webinar, I give them the offer. If they buy or they don't buy it, it doesn't really matter. Like, some will buy, some won't. But I'm not going to have a crazy follow-up sequence because that cannibalizes the rest of my offers, and it kind of puts me in this position where I can't offer them that program again. Or if I can, I have to answer all these questions like, oh, I thought you closed this cart down. It's like, no, like, I want to offer that to them whenever. It's like, if they buy on the webinar, I'll give them a couple extra cool bonuses, but like, I still want to sell that to them and I want to offer it to them down the road. And so anyway, this strategy like just hit me like a ton of bricks. And so I'm really excited, and I'm going to be sharing this with my list today in my Experts Unleashed Facebook group. So this is what I think is going to unleash the floodgates for me, because I have an incredible offer. Like, I'm paying people to complete the program. Like, I'm paying them to complete the webinar accelerator and make their first sale. When they make their first sale, like, I pay them, like, I give them a credit towards any future investments that they make with ConvertPro. Like, it's a no-brainer offer. I'm like, why am I limiting myself to only pitching this once a week? And so anyway, this thing, I'm just so excited because it just, like, it makes a ton of sense. And I'm like, if I already know that if I reinvite people to the existing webinar, I already get a boost in sales. So let me focus my time on doing live trainings for that list rather than doing cold traffic live webinars to, some fluctuating responsive, people who've never heard of me before. So anyway, that's what I'm going to share with you today. I'm really excited because this is going to transform the way that I promote my products and services in the future. I've done auto webinars where we do coaching programs, and that works like crazy. And I'm like, well, I just could never figure out the direct selling method with auto webinars and cold traffic. And it's like, I'm looking at it from a completely different standpoint. Like, I think that the end is when they either buy or don't buy. And if I'm playing it for the long-term game, then it's a completely different ballgame. So anyway, I'm excited, guys. Hopefully by this time next week, we'll have turned out some sales because I'm launching the auto webinar today or tomorrow. So I'll be getting people in and I'm just so freaking excited. I think this is going to be huge. So anyway, I'm going to close this down and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.